This is the New Century Health Clinic final deliverable. I'm Alex Moxley.
I'm Andrew Weaver.
I'm Hanna, Marynenka. New Century Health Clinic was formed 5 years ago in Bree, California. It offers preventive medicine and traditional medical care. Company's mission is to help patients maintain health and fitness. It was formed by 2 cardiologists, Timothy Jones and Dolores Garcia. These cardiologists are in charge of 4 doctors, 3 registered nurses, 4 physical therapists, and 6 office staff workers. In addition, all members of the staff deal with patient records, insurance processing, appointment processing, and preparation of billing statements. It is a brick-and-mortar company because business is conducted primarily from physical location. The clinic currently has a patient base of 3,500 patients from 275 different employers and accepts 34 different insurance plans. The company is growing rapidly due to the convenient location near the new shopping mall in a busy section of the city. The current office system does not support constantly growing workload, which increase administrative costs and disrupt efficiency. In order to keep up with the growth, Dr. Jones, co-owner of New Century Health Clinic, submits the system request to the IT company. In the request, it states that New Century Health Clinic decides to computerize its office system to reduce paperwork and keep track of patients, appointments, charges, and insurance claims processing. Our recommended solution is to implement a system that will computerize insurance reimbursement and will have databases for maintaining patient files, managing appointments and billing. In addition, the new system will reduce administrative costs, speed up insurance reimbursement, provide controls and reports, decrease the workload, and increase office efficiency.
To go over the system requirement checklist, it includes outputs, inputs, processes, performance, and controls. The requirements that we feel are most important for each one of these categories. For outputs, insurance reimbursements must be automated and electronically sent to the insurance company. For input, procedures must be entered using the American Medical Association coding system. Process, the patient appointment, patient records, and insurance systems must be integrated and work properly with one another. Performance, the system must support the current number of patient records and insurance policies used by the old system. And controls, employees must log into the patient records database with ID numbers to improve security and privacy of patient records.
This is a cost-benefit analysis for Amazon Web Services. As you can see, the return on investment is 364%, and the break-even point would be between year 0 and year 1 because you will have gained as much as the system would have cost you at that point. This is a cost-benefit analysis of HP Cloud. The return on investment turns out to be 162%, and the break-even point is also between year 0 and year 1. And Amazon Web Services is the better choice because it has a better return on investment.
For our weighted factor analysis, we scored the system based off rankings we felt were appropriate for different categories that are important to the success of the system, cost being most important, followed by usability and layout and design. As you can see, Amazon Web Services scored a 690, which came in second. HP Cloud scored a 625, which came in last, and in-house system that we proposed scored a 770, and we think that is the best system. As I said before, our recommendation for the solution would be the in-house system. It scored the best in the most highly weighted factor, which was cost, with a 9, and it also scored very high in layout and design and flexibility, which was a 9 and an 8. And it satisfies business requirements, minimizes constraints of existing systems, and satisfies unique security requirements that we feel are necessary.
During system requirement phase, Dr. Jones and Lisa Sun suggested the layout of the reports. That's the claim status summary report, which is based on Dr. Jones' suggestions. This is the appointment list that is based on Lisa Sun's suggestions. And that's the user interface for patient files.
This is the entity relationship diagram for New Century Health Clinic, and this shows all the various relationships within the organization: one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. And here's the ERI diagram continued.
For the system architecture recommendations, we propose a client-server system. The pros of this system are it's very flexible, object-oriented application, empowers users and increases productivity. Processing options can be modified, data can be stored closer to users. Hardware and software requirements and integration is very flexible. Some cons of the system: it has poor security and it's difficult to control. We also feel the star local area network would be a good choice. The pros of it is very fast, versatile, high network control, uses local area network that New Century has stated that they want. The cons: controlled by a single switch, and if the hardware fails, the whole network will be affected. We feel that they should use differential backup systems. It backs up files that have been changed since the last full backup. It's on a weekly to daily basis. It's faster than full backup and requires less storage space. And some hardware that New Century wishes to have implemented are for personal computers with high-speed laser printers and impact printers for multi-part forms that all the personal computers can access. And we want to build a new system around their current workstations, telecommunications, and mobile devices, etc. And it also should include an enterprise resource planning software system that integrates and streamlines all business functions.
Implementation plan would include application development, documentation, testing, training, data conversion, and system changeover.
For our system changeover approach, we would recommend a phased operation, because with this method, we'd be able to gradually change the company operations over to a more efficient computerized system, one module at a time, to ensure that there are no problems with any part of our system. It would be less risky than a direct cutover and less expensive than a parallel operation. A pilot operation would not be logical because the company does not have many office employees to be able to have a test group. For our training recommendations, we said that it would be a good idea to train people in groups and utilize people already trained to help others. For our documentation recommendations, we would ask them to describe the system's functions and how they are implemented, and include instructions and information to users who will interact with the system through the use of user manuals, help screens, and tutorials. And for procedural recommendations, we will have procedures for requested changes and reporting problems, and let the system handle the trivial tasks so that employees only have to worry about completing the tasks which the system is unable to handle.
We feel that the IT department should follow corrective maintenance and perfective maintenance to make sure the system is always working properly and no problems occur. System security: some aspects of security are confidentiality, integrity, availability, the steps to identifying security problems, and the levels of security. And if we follow all these, there should not be any problems with the system. Here are our sources, and that concludes our final deliverable on New Century Health Clinic.